and welcome to Access Granted PDFs, where we focus on building accessible digital experiences. I am Rachel Ruprecht, a senior instructional designer here at Broward College.
And I am Heidi Keller, also a senior instructional designer at Broward College.
So today we're going to walk through how to create accessible PDF documents. PDFs are a big topic in accessibility because there's a lot to them for the sake of accessibility. But in sum, the challenge when working with PDFs is that unless the underlying tags and appropriate structure is there, a PDF is sort of like a blank image or maybe even a wall of text that is not easily navigable by assistive technology, by screen readers. So the underlying principles that inform the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, also known as WCAG, that apply here, or that are just sort of underlying all of the issues that could be relevant to PDFs, are known via the acronym of POUR. They're called the POUR principles. And those are that they require that documents be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. In brief, that means perceivable is often the one that we interact with most while making things accessible. We're trying to make sure that the content is easy to perceive across differences in human senses. Second is operable. That has to do with how easy it is to navigate across differences in technology. So here an example might be if a user is navigating only with a keyboard or on mobile or via voice input, or they need to be able to navigate the content in the same way that others who might be navigating with a mouse as well or something like that would be. Third is that the content be as easily understandable as possible across different cognitive differences in how people understand and process information and complete tasks. So that has to do with predictable and consistent design, understandable language, and having a tolerance for error. And the fourth has to do with making content and applications that work across different devices. So different web browsers, different assistive technologies, different operating systems, different versions, all the sorts of things that might have to do with that. So a lot of the accessibility issues that you'll encounter in PDFs are things that you have seen us talk about already if you've been following along with our Access Granted episodes. These issues might be familiar to you, and they would apply in the same way in PDFs that they would elsewhere. So, for example, if there's images, they would need to have alt text. You need to have sufficient color contrast. Headings would need to be appropriately structured. Links would need to be behind descriptive text. Tables need to be formatted in such a way that the screen reader would know how to identify their headings, and videos would need to have captions and transcripts. So those are things that may apply within a PDF, but we've talked about them before. But there are some PDF-specific issues that you might not encounter elsewhere. Those have to do with things like a tag tree, which has to do with the logical reading order of the items within the PDF to ensure that when assistive technology is navigating it, it follows the intended flow, or making sure that things within it that shouldn't be read by the assistive technology, like maybe it says page 5 in the footer, you don't want while the technology is reading that in the middle of a sentence for it to just stop and insert page 5 because that's the next thing on the page. So those sorts of things have to be artifacted within the tag tree. It also has to do with things like metadata, in which you would set the document's language. And you can actually vary within a document. So you could mark a particular paragraph as being in a different language, or identifying what the title of the document is, so that that is displayed rather than what the name of the file is. Also issues having to do with fonts, so that characters are encoded, so their underlying data matches what the visual letters are when that gets transferred into different technologies or interfaces. Also, things like embedding the font file inside of the PDF so that formatting and accessibility won't break for a user who might not have that particular font installed or be using something different. Also, form fields. If a PDF has fillable boxes, then users should be able to move through it logically using only the tab key, so that they can access and complete those fields. And those fields need to be descriptively labeled. And then there's some additional complex elements that can be part of PDFs that also need to be made accessible, ensured that those things are formatted appropriately. But we're going to focus today on some best practices, and then Heidi's going to demo for you some of the most common accessibility issues within PDFs and how to address those. So stepping back from all of those other issues, the best practices things that you really need to focus on or that would be most helpful for you, first I'd say is to work with the source as much as you can. So if you have access, whenever possible, do your accessibility remediation within a Word document that you would then export to a PDF rather than trying to do it within the PDF first. Remediating in PDF can be a difficult process, and then if you find, for example, a simple typo, you'd have to go back into the Word document, regenerate the PDF, and you'd lose all of the progress that you made in accessibility remediation. So whenever possible, work in the Word document. And if it is exported, this is our second best practice recommendation. If a Word document is exported to PDF appropriately, a lot of the accessibility changes or fixes that you made will stick. They'll stay there. As long as you don't use print to PDF, but instead use export or save as PDF, those accessibility issues should already be addressed. Also, there is an accessibility checker within Adobe Acrobat PDF, and that will identify issues for you and walk you through how to address them. And then finally, the most important thing that you'll often interact with in PDF accessibility has to do with tags. So making sure that those semantic tags are in a logical outline, and then also that they have appropriate descriptive labels for the sections rather than just being called something like Section 1 or Section 2. So remember, as always, accessibility is not optional. Accessible PDFs are a compliance requirement. They're a cornerstone of accessibility and a cornerstone of accessible design. So a good takeaway when you're working with PDF accessibility is to ask yourself, have I checked the tags? And to make sure that you've done that before you move on. Now, Heidi is going to walk through what this looks like in practice.
Thanks, Rachel. So here we have a document that's opened up in Adobe. Make sure that if you're going to edit a document, that you open it up in an Adobe Reader, Editor, or other PDF reader and editor. Because if you just click on a file, often it will just open up in the browser and you won't be able to correct anything there. So we are indeed in Adobe, and you can see that the All Tools tab opens up first on the left-hand panel here. And you need to scroll down. Sometimes you have to click View More to see the accessibility tool here, Prepare for Accessibility. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and you'll see there are some features here that you can work with to make your document more accessible. Rachel mentioned adding tags for semantic tags for elements in the PDF. Adobe will automatically tag the PDF for you. So we can use that later on. And there's also an add alternate text feature as well. Those are there, but let's go ahead and do the accessibility check first. So you see the tool here, check for accessibility. Click Start Checking, and you'll see the accessibility checker panel opens on the right. You can expand each of these areas here. So you can see there are multiple issues with this document. We'll expand all of these, and you can see all the issues that it flagged. So I'll go ahead and work with you to correct some common issues. So for document, you can just right-click on title, for example. So we'll right-click on it, and you can click Fix. And it will select the title for you and add that as the title. Of course, you'll have to go through and check the accuracy of all of these, but these kind of quick fix tools are very helpful. Another issue we see here is the tagged content. So we can go back over to this panel. Remember I pointed out the automatically tagged PDF feature. So we'll click on that, and Adobe will automatically detect and tag fields. It does the best it can. Of course, you know, to be of the utmost, you would have to check it for accuracy, but this is much better than having an untagged PDF. So that is done. Let's go ahead and open the checker again. And we have far fewer issues, which is great. Let's select this one here. We'll right-click on language. You can go ahead and click Fix. English is the primary language then selected for this document. And that is passed now. Once you work through all of the issues, make sure that you save your PDF, and you now have a much more accessible PDF.
Thanks, Heidi. So we hope you found this helpful as you work on making sure that your PDFs are accessible, and that you'll join us again next time as we continue to learn more about making digital content here at Broward College accessible.